So Change Your World is all about inspiring positive change and creating a ripple effect for individuals, organizations, and the environment. Because every action has a reaction. And my aim is to inspire and show you just some of the small changes you can make to get better results. Today is all about learning to live life better, whatever way that means for you. But before I share more about Change Your World, I think it's important that I share a little bit about my story and what led me to be here today, setting up an event like this. So 10 years ago, I met a life coach called Alistair Stewart, who's over there at the Change Your World table. That one there, yeah. I had no idea the impact that Alistair would have on my life. Initially, we met in a professional capacity. I met him through my work, and he was explaining to me what a life coach was, because I had no idea what a life coach did. And he said, you know, simply that he helps people and supports them to reach their true potential. And then very bluntly said, you could do with some life coaching. And I was totally indignified, because I had met him in a professional capacity and I was putting my best front on and pretending everything was okay. But of course, my work was okay. I was doing really well. I was excelling in my work and I was throwing all my energy there. But my personal life wasn't okay. I was in lots of debt. I was in a miserable relationship. My health wasn't great. I was overweight and just wasn't thriving at all. And I just wasn't living life with passion or anything. And literally, I threw all my energy into work because that was the only thing that was going well for me. So 4 months later, it took me 4 months to actually pick up the phone and ask Alistair for a life coaching session, because I was so embarrassed at the idea of needing life coaching. But it was after another argument with my boyfriend at the time, and I realized that we'd been having the same argument as we were having 12 months earlier, and I thought, I vowed back then that I would not be in the same position, having the same argument, and nothing had changed. In fact, it just got worse. So I knew I needed to do something. So I phoned Alistair, we met up in Starbucks. And I was so, like I say, I was so embarrassed that I needed life coaching. I was looking at my friends and my family and my colleagues, and everybody else seemed sorted, and it didn't seem that they needed life coaching. I was thinking, why am I such a failure that I can't sort out my own life? However, we sat down, and I live in Inverness, and Inverness is a very small place, and you know, you always bump into somebody you know, and I said, who should I say you are if anybody sees us? And he says, just tell them I'm your life coach. It's like, not gonna happen, no way. And I couldn't work out what was worse, somebody thinking we were having an affair, or he was my life coach. So that gives you an indication of where I was in my way of thinking. However, we stuck with it, and, you know, he started the first session, he just simply said, well, what do you want from life? And I was like, I don't know. And I said, I guess I just want to be happy. And he said, well, what does happiness look to you? I don't know, no idea. And he says, well, how can you create the life that you want if you don't know what that looks like? So I was like, good point, caller, I don't know. But nobody had ever asked me these questions before. I'd certainly never asked myself. I had no role models around me, you know, parents, family, school, no platforms where I was being asked these kinds of questions. So this really kind of got me thinking, and, you know, we met regularly, and I really started to enjoy the sessions. I started to see a difference in my life. I started making small improvements just in the way I thought initially, and just realizing my limiting beliefs and my low self-esteem. And this was great, you know, I really started to see things shifting. But then 6 months into the life coaching, a whole grenade went off in my life. And my mum and my sister Christine were both diagnosed with terminal cancer within 4 months of each other. Now, I'd actually already lost my dad 10 years earlier. He was also diagnosed with cancer and literally given weeks to live. And in the time before he died, we had this rare moment together. It was just the two of us. And he burst into tears. Now, my dad was a big, strong man that never showed his emotion, typical guy. And he said, I'm too young to die. I've still got so much to do. And I remember being absolutely crushed by this because I just saw my dad as somebody that had lived a very fulfilled life. But he was also an angry man, and it used to upset me. My dad used to shout quite a lot when we were younger. And I realized in that moment that's because he wasn't living the life that he wanted to live. And he had this internal kind of angst about that, and that's why he was angry. So I vowed in that moment that I would never let that happen to me. That was not going to be my legacy, that I was going to live life to the fullest. I was going to embrace it, and I was going to face it head on and make sure that I had no regrets when I reached the end of my life. So flash forward 10 years, I'm being hit with the same brutal life lesson. And my mum and sister have been diagnosed, and I'm thinking, how have I become so complacent about life? How have I allowed life just to catch up on me again? And I certainly wasn't living with abundance or thriving or happy. I mean, it was quite the opposite. So during that time, obviously, life caught up. My priorities were caring for my mum and my sister. And I also have another sister, Michelle, or Shelley, as I call her. And she's an adult with learning disabilities. And I always knew that when my parents passed away, Shelley would come to live with me and I would look after her. However, I always assumed that I would be married. I would have family of my own. I'd have all my other siblings. I've got another brother as well. And I just assumed that they'd all be around me to support me. But that was not my situation, because just before losing mum, I split up with my partner, had to move house, lost the house. My brother, our relationship had never been great, so that completely deteriorated after mum died. My sister in Manchester is still battling cancer and dealing with her own challenges. And, it was me and Shelley, and I was on my own. So life got really challenging, and the one good thing that, my job that I'd excelled at and been really good at, suddenly that started failing because I just couldn't handle the pressure and the stress and the grief and the losses of all the grief. So you can imagine things got pretty dark, and I did get to a point where I just thought, I can't take this anymore. I cannot bear this pain. And I woke up one morning and I had this thought. I just thought, I believe that when we pass away, we go to this beautiful place and there's no pain and it's unconditional love. And I just thought, I don't want to feel this pain anymore. And I just want to check out and end this. Now, the thing about personal development and life coaching is that the first thing is self-awareness and learning about your thoughts and what you're thinking. So this was a real wake-up call for me. I was like, when did my mental health start deteriorating so much that I was having these thoughts? So that's when I knew I had to dig in. So I'd still been seeing Alistair, the life coach, and literally was, learning the theory of everything he was teaching me, but I wasn't applying it. So this was the turning point. I really had to start applying what he was teaching me. And that's why I'm so passionate about personal development, because had I not had the right support around about me, I would have, my mental health would have deteriorated. I could have been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from all the losses I experienced. But as a result, because I had the right support, I grew from those experiences and challenges and adversity, and it went on to post-traumatic growth. Now, my mum was a smoker. I begged, pleaded, and nagged for her to give up. But she wouldn't. She'd rather die than change. I saw her smoking rob her of her health. First it was asthma, then it was COPD, and then finally it was lung cancer. I remember being so angry after she passed away, because I thought, how could you not, this could have been avoided. Just one small, simple change could have avoided this. And I was so angry with her because she'd left and I was grieving. However, I realized over time that she didn't have the right support round about her, and this is why she didn't see all that she could be and value herself to become all that she could be, which is why I went on to set up Change Your World. So I'm flash forwarding 7 years here, and there's been a lot of development going on. I have literally thrown myself into every self-help book, conferences, seminars, talks. I became a personal development junkie, and this is why I'm able to set up an event like this and bring this to you today. I wanted to create something that would help others, and I knew that encouraging people to be the best that they can be would change the world in the process. If I hadn't had a consistent personal development practice, I would not be doing this today. And this is a ripple effect of that personal development. I'm getting my 5 minutes, I'm well overrunning. I've got like 3 pages to go yet. Now, I believe the key to changing the world is through self-improvement. When we develop ourselves, we think better. When we think better, we make better choices. When we make better choices, we get better results. And that's when our world starts to change. If every single person had a personal development practice, if we taught this in schools and raised strong, resilient children instead of trying to repair broken adults, we'd be living in a very different world today. Every one of us will face challenges in our life, whether that's losing loved ones, health issues, relationship breakdowns, work stresses. I hope through my events I want to show how you can respond to those challenges in a more empowered way, or even better, prevent them from happening at all in the first place. What is most exciting thing about personal development is that small changes can have the biggest impact, and the speakers will just demonstrate that today. People often think that in order to make a difference in the world that you have to do big, noble acts. But the reality is it's the small actions we do each and every day that makes the biggest difference. Now, I appreciate that when you're already dealing with challenges of life, it can seem overwhelming to worry about the world as well. But that's the beauty of the Change Your World message. All you need to do is make a difference and to make a difference in the world is to start by making positive changes in yourself. Changing yourself really does change everything. In the beginning, when I met Alistair, change was really slow. It was so slow, and Alistair is the most patient man I know. And he needed to be, because I was terrified to become all that I could be, and I still am. You have no idea the anxiety I experience every time I have to do public speaking. This has been a massive phobia of mine for so long, and I am so out of my comfort zone right now. But I've learned that no matter how uncomfortable something is or how difficult it is to make a change, it is always worth it on the other side. I have literally transformed every aspect of my life now. My health, my diet, my relationships, and this year, I also changed my working world after leaving my very secure, well-paid day job after 18 years to work on Change Your World full-time. So step by step, I'm creating the life I really want to live and learning to truly love and value myself. Now, you were all given a goodie bag when you came in, which has a notepad and pen. You are going to hear a wealth of evidence-based research today that can help you to live life happier and healthier. When you hear something that resonates and inspires you, I want you to write it down and commit to putting it in action as soon as you can. Equally, if you hear something that triggers you, challenges you, you feel defensive or resistant, please write that down as well and ask yourself why you reacted that way to it, because there will be a lesson there. There'll be a fear, underlying fear or something there. And start to work out what your core values are and ask yourself if you are living by them. And think about all the things that bring you joy and make you happy. And ask yourself, how much time do you actually spend on those activities that make you happy? If you take nothing else away from my talk today, there's these 3 things that I would like you to take away. And the first thing is to value yourself. Ask yourself how you are nourishing yourself physically and mentally with the choices that you make each day, the influences that come in from various sources. The second is extreme ownership. Have an honest appraisal of your life and think, is this exactly the way I want to be living? Don't blame anybody else, and just take charge of the things that you can control and the things that you can make a difference, and start there, and the rest will build momentum. And the third thing is understand the ripple effect of your actions. Ask yourself every time you make a choice, will this bring me a positive result? And if it doesn't bring you a positive result, how is that valuing yourself? So you can see it goes full circle. Now, I am totally overrunning, so I am going to introduce the first speaker of the day. I am very excited about the speakers that we've got lined up for you today. And yeah, I just want you to get absolutely absorbed in it, but write everything down and just really, really enjoy the day.